Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on time, the topic that we've been doing so far. Now, in this video, we're going to look at doing calculations with time. And this is going to be particularly centered on this idea of time intervals. So the space between two different times. Now, a bit later, we're also going to talk about and do some questions about some real world applications of this stuff because understanding how to calculate time intervals ends up being quite applicable to the real world. Now, here, I'm just going to do one question and show you an approach I like to do for questions like this. So, here we have the time interval between 4:35 p.m. and 9:10 p.m. So what I mean by time interval is just the time space between 4:15 and 9:10 p.m. Now, what I'm going to do to work through this question is I'm going to draw, similar to what I did in the last video, a little timeline kind of thing, a little representation of what I have in the question. So I'm going to say that I have 4:35 p.m. here and I have 9:10 p.m. here. And we can see that these times aren't really round numbers, are they? But in the approach that I'm going to do, I'm going to try to split this big time intervals, say from here to here, into these smaller time intervals to work with and find the actual time distance between my 2 points. And I'm going to break this up into some nicer round numbers here. Now, I can't look at this right off the bat and see, well, how far between here and here, but I can draw on my little scale here, my little timeline, some more nice round numbers to actually calculate. So I can't figure out off the top of my head how much time is between 4:35 and 9 p.m., but I've drawn in these other nice round numbers here. If we think of rounding, we're rounding here, say, to the nearest hour. Because I've gone from 4:35, I've rounded that up to 5 p.m. 9:10 p.m., I've rounded that down to 9 o'clock. 9 p.m., I should say. So let's think, well, how many hours have passed? How many hours are between 5 and 9? Oops. Well, I can find that out. I'm looking at the difference between 9 and 5, and that gives me 4 hours. And now all we have to do is we just need to find this little time interval here and this time interval here. And that's going to give us the total interval from 4:35 until 9:10. This is just a strategy I like to do, but if you come up with your own, that's great too. So here, well, I want to see how much time is between 4:35 p.m. and 5 p.m. So I can say that, well, all right, there's 60 minutes in an hour, right? So I want to see how much time is between 60, so the nearest hour where this ticks over to 5 p.m., and 35. Oops. Does that sort of make sense? Because when my number here gets to 60, I'm going to tick over to the next hour to 5 p.m. So I can find how much time is between 4:35 and 5 p.m. by just minusing the hour, this 60, by taking the 60 and minusing 35 from it to find the difference between these two times. And that gives me 25 minutes. And here, this one's a little bit easier. Finding the time between 9:10 and 9 p.m., well, 10 minutes have passed between here. I can also find this by doing 10 minutes minus 0. But I can just read off from here to see, well, just 10 minutes have passed between 9 and 9:10. So Putting this all together, my total time between 4:35 p.m. and 9:10 p.m. equals 4 hours, the time between here and here. So let me write that in. It gives me 4 hours plus my 25 minutes from here to here. 25 mins plus my 10 minutes from the end here down to here. So plus 10 minutes. I'm almost done here. Sorry, let me bring my next question down a little bit. And I'm left with 4 hours plus 25 minutes plus 10 minutes, and that's going to simplify to 4 hours, and we have 25 minutes plus 10 minutes. That gives me 35 minutes. So I can say I have 4 hours and 35 minutes in between 4:35 and 9:10. So this is what I like to do. I like to just break this up into a timeline here and then break this up into little round numbers to make this question a little bit more digestible. So if you like this way, you can do it like that. It's just for me personally, I like to first give myself some really nice round numbers and then just do the other fiddly bits later. So that is how we can work with time intervals. Now, I said before that we would look at another question, which is a real life application of these time intervals. So here I'm looking at a train timetable. So this is an example of a train timetable in Australia where I'm from. I have two towns here. One is called Bathurst, one is called Lithgow, and I have two different timetables between when this train runs. One is in the morning, one is in the afternoon. So I'm going to have a two-part question here, and I want to first find the time between 7:11 p.m. and 8:15 p.m. Cool. Okay, so this is what I want to find here. Now, this, like I said, has real world applications, right? Say I've got on the train at Bathurst and I know from the timetable that it's going to get me to Lithgow at 8:15. I can figure out how long the actual trip is going to take. Maybe that's important to me and I need to find out. Or I can I live in Lithgow and I know that the train got to Bathurst at 7:11, and I want to find out how much time I have to get ready in the morning to go to work or something. So here we can find the time between these two. Now I'm going to do my little timeline approach again. Some of you may find it easier to do it without, but I'm going to say, well, I want to find how long is it going to take me to get from 7. Oops, sorry, I made a little mistake. These should be AM. Not that it matters too much with the calculation, but to keep it consistent with the question, let's do it like this. So, oops, I have my time of 7:11 AM. Let's make that the same color. 11 AM to 8:15 AM. So, I'm going to introduce a round number here because I find it way easier to work in these little portions of my number line here, of my timeline, I should say. So for me, it's a bit easier to say, all right, well, let's first find the time between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. So I'm going to do this by breaking this up, let's do it below actually. Breaking it up and seeing, cool, how long is it going to take for me to get to 7-Eleven to 8 a.m.? Now, 8 a.m., as we said before, it's going to be 60 minutes in total between 7 and 8. And I want to find the time between 11 and the 60 minutes when my clock rounds up and ticks over to the next hour. So I can find this interval by minusing 11 from 60. Because we can think of 8 a.m. as 7:60, right? But we don't say 7:60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So instead of saying 7 minutes, 60 seconds, 7 hours, 60 minutes, I can just say 8 a.m. So this 60 just represents the ticking over to the next hour. So if I put that in my calculator, well, I could have probably just done it in my head, but I'm feeling a bit lazy today. So let's just pop it in and we get 49 minutes. And very last bit, I want to find my last little section here. So 8 a.m. till 8:15 a.m. Well, I can do 15 minus 0, which gives me 15 minutes. Cool. Okay, and here I can just add these together, and that is going to give me, if I add 49 and 15, I'm going to get 64 minutes. Or I can write this as, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, we can write 1 hour and 4 minutes. And cool thing here, guys, is that you can work through these however you want with the intervals, whatever you feel comfortable with. You could have also said, which actually may have been a smarter way, you could have also said, well, 7:11 a.m. until 8:11 a.m. is 1 hour. And then I can say, well, there's just 4 more minutes between 8:11 till 8:15. So I get 1 hour and 4 minutes. So there's multiple ways to get to the same answer using this interval timeline I've drawn up here. So that's part A. Now let's find out the time it takes to get from Bathurst to Lithgow with these values here. So I'm going to put these in. So we want to find the time. Between. Let me change these values up because I just realized that it's going to kind of give me the same answer. It's going to give you an identical answer if I do it this way. Let's say between 2:41 1 p.m. and let's go, instead of 3:45, let's go 3:39 p.m. Let's say in the afternoon, for example, the trains just moves a little bit quicker. This may not be super realistic, but just so we get a different answer, let's have a look at part B here. We want to find the time between 2:41 and 3:39. So a real world application, say you get a notification on your phone or there's an announcement at the train station that the train's going to be running early. So instead of 3:45, it's going to get there at 3:39. We can find the time it's going to take us to get ready, for example, to get to this train on time. So once again, let me draw my little timeline here. So I'm going from 2:41 p.m. And as you get more comfortable with this, guys, you don't need to draw this every single time. But I just do it because, for me especially, I find it a little bit easier to visualize what I'm doing. And I'll actually show you with this question 2 ways we could approach this. Now, the first way, I want to make this a nice round number. So I'm going to see how long it's going to take me to get, or how much time is between 2:41 and 3 p.m. So let's draw in my little interval. And I can say, cool, how much time between 2:41 and 3 p.m.? Well, the nearest hour, once this ticks over to 3 p.m., is going to be 60. And from that, I'm going to minus 41. And I'm going to see what my time is between here and here. So doing 60 minus 41, that gives me 19 minutes. And then now from 3 o'clock to 3:39, I can just go, well, 39 minutes minus 0 to find the distance time interval between here and here. And that just gives me 39. You don't have to do this whole step for the end. If you can just count up 39 from 3 p.m. and it'll give you 39 minutes too. And that gives us the total time interval here. So my time interval equals 19 plus 39, and that gives me 58 minutes here. Adding 19, 39 gives me 58. Now let me just show you another way you could have done this, because there's numerous ways. Once we draw up this timeline, there's a bunch of different ways we can go about this. So for example, let me do this in another color. I know how much time it's going to take me to get from 2:41 to, for example, 3:41. That from 2:41 to 3:41, that's just 1 hour. Do we agree? 2:41 to 3:41, and exactly 1 hour has passed. And now to get back to 3:39, well, we just want to subtract 2 minutes, because we haven't taken the full hour to get there. We've taken 2 minutes less than that. So we could have also done 1 hour or 60 minutes minus 2 minutes, which would have given us the exact same answer, 58 minutes. Now, this, guys, is how you would work through questions that relate to calculating time intervals. And you can see there's a lot of real-world applications to this. Now, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.